On today's episode of Locked On Longhorns, Alabama, Texas, likely at 11 a.m. Agiye Hall makes headlines again, and we're talking SEC matchups and potential pods.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Longhorns, the show. Jonathan Davis, your host. I don't feel like I said that as smooth as I should have. So today on Locked On Longhorns, we're going to be talking about Alabama and Texas potentially playing at 11 a.m. on September 10th. Agiye Hall is making headlines again. And we're talking potential SEC pods and matchups when Texas moves to the SEC. Joined by George Corkian on today's show, Oklahoma's finest.
What up, John?
What's up, George? All right, so first, Fox has picked up the biggest game of the year for Texas outside of the Red River Shootout. Alabama, Texas, second week of the season, September 10th. But many people are speculating that this game will be the big noon kickoff game, which means it'll be 12 Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. So how do you feel about Texas and Alabama possibly the biggest game of the year, definitely the biggest game of the week, being played at 11 a.m.?
Oh man, I hate it, honestly. I've been to 4 Texas games in my life. 3 of them at 11 a.m., one of them at 7:30 p.m. And the 11 a.m. It's just it's too hot. Early September. Austin, Texas. I mean, you're talking 105, 110 degrees on the field. I feel like this has been a thing. I mean, I think Texas OU has been at 11 a.m. for the last, decade, maybe, if not more. It's too much, man. It's hot. It's not a great scenario for the fans, not a great scenario for the players. You look for any advantage you can have in these situations, but it's no, not a fan. Really disappointed when I found out Fox had the game. I was really hoping that would be the 6:30 ABC kickoff with the Herb Street, maybe game day, who knows. But I was disappointed when I found out that was going to be the case. What about you?
Yeah, so like on the bright side, I mean, we'll get to hear the great Gus Johnson call it, the great Joel Klatt and Jenny Taft on the sidelines. So we'll get the all-star Fox crew. But the more I thought about it, this definitely should not be an 11 o'clock game. And I know that Texas fans are used to it because our biggest game of the year every year is the Red River Rivalry, which is at 11 a.m. But there's no other matchup that week even remotely close to Texas-Alabama. And you can say what you want about Texas, but even Alabama, period. Like, they should be at 7:30 at night, but you add Texas to it and the hype, around this team, the hype around Alabama, who was the runner-ups last year, the champions before that. This game, a la Texas and LSU, should be the night game. This should be the game at 6:30, 7:30, where everybody's watching. Now, granted, it's Alabama, Texas. Everybody's going to be watching at 11 a.m., but there's no reason this game should be played at 11. And I think they're banking on the fact that people are going to watch it regardless. I'm that NFL fan that's watching London games at 8:30 a.m. So, of course, I'll be watching Texas at 11. But this definitely should be the 7:30 game. It should be that primetime night game. I mean, you mentioned it, like how uncomfortable that is going to be for the fans and the football players. But just outside of that, like I said, I feel like it needs to be the big 7:30 night marquee game. And, of course, it's college football, so none of these games are standalones. Even your 7:30 game, you're going to have other games going on at that time. But it needs to be the big night game in Austin, Texas, like Texas going against Alabama.
Concern. I don't care about the TV. It's not important to me. What you watch the Texas LSU game from the Burrow, that LSU year where, I mean, we held our own. You need kind of like some build up. You need the fans to kind of, it's a full day, get charged up. You got that loud crowd. I mean, 11 a.m. As someone who's been to games there, I mean, most of these the fan waking up at like 10:15. So it's really disappointing, man. Honestly, like I was really, really hoping that would be the like the Herb Street. Let's get it going at night. Crowd gets going, but 11 a.m. I guess if we got to do it, we got to do it. Show up and strap up. But it kind of sucked when I found that out today. It's going to be the 11 a.m. It's going to be the big noon. So.
Yeah, and so Inside Texas, they had like some good stats on that today. They said that like 6 of last year, 6 of the big noon kickoff games were the highest rated games of the week, and 2 of them were second. So basically 8 of the big noon kickoff games were either the highest rated game of the week or the second highest rated. And there's no secret that Texas Alabama will be the highest rated game of the week. Like I said, you'll have Joel Klatt calling it. You'll have Gus Johnson calling it. It's going to be a great game, TV wise, and they're going to make their money regardless of what time slot they put it in. Of course, they want to continue to build their brand with the big noon kickoff. But I just think it should have been at 7:30. I think it should have been at night. I think it should have been, like you said, something that you can build up all day, whether it's on TV, talk about it all day. But even the fans being able to tailgate and all of that, like you said, like you wake up and the game is about to start, like regardless of what time you wake up, you know what I mean? Like it's just
like I said, I woke up for 3 out of the 5 games I've been to at like 9 in the morning. It's just you're not all there. You're like I was on 6 last night. I was having a good time. Now I got to wake up, show up to this game. I was really, really hoping this would be the ABC like game of the week, maybe game day, make an appearance. When I found out it was going to be Fox, I knew it was going to be the big noon kickoff. Man, it's hot. It's hot. It's early, but you know what? Show up and show out. We'll see what they do.
So they said the average weather the second week in Austin is around 93 degrees, and so I'm assuming we'll get around 93 degrees as well. Like you said, it's going to be closer to, feel like 100 on the field, especially when you're out there running and hitting. But, maybe this will give Texas an advantage. We're going to be more used to the heat than the Alabama players are. And so maybe Alabama will come in and be a little hot. Maybe they'll be a little too hot to dominate us like most people think they will. And so maybe that gives us a little bit of an advantage there. And as we said, all eyes are going to be on the game. The stands are going to be full. Everybody's going to be watching on TV, whether it's at 11 a.m., 11 p.m. It could be at 3 a.m. That's just going to be the highest graded game on TV.
I'll be watching regardless, but
yeah. So it's we wish it was later at night, but at the end of the day, we get Texas Alabama the second week of the season. We get Quinn Ewers versus Bryce Young. We get Bijan Robinson versus Will Anderson. We get Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, Isaiah Nair, and Agiye Hall out there, hopefully, against his old team. We'll talk about Agiye Hall here in a minute, but it's Texas, Alabama regardless. And like you said, just like Texas, Oklahoma, regardless of what time it is, the Texas fans are going to show up and show out for it. And the Alabama fans will too. So it's going to be an event regardless.
They'll be there.
All right, quick word from our sponsors. Imagine dipping your finger into that plastic tub of birthday cake frosting and then opening your eyes and realizing that was only 150 calories and 16 grams of protein. That is what it is like to eat a birthday cake puff from Built Bar. They just sent me a bunch of them. They are amazing. I would not lie to you. I just received my birthday cake puffs, and I have never had anything like this before. They're available right now, and we can't promise that they will be there tomorrow, so go get them today at Built.com. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, so Texas's newest receiver, Agiye Hall, transferred from Alabama. There were a lot of concerns at Alabama. Of course, he had the drops in the national championship game, ended up having 4 catches for 72 yards last year after he dominated Alabama's spring game in 2021. And there were some concerns about academics, about him causing rifts, about him being upset that he didn't get the ball enough. All in all, that led him to enter the transfer portal, transfer to the University of Texas, commit to the University of Texas. But since then, he has deleted all his University of Texas related posts on his social media, and that got people to inquiring why Agiye Hall may have deleted all of his posts off of social media. That led to a report coming out saying that Agiye Hall has scrubbed all of his posts off of social media and that he was no longer on the Texas roster. We have to debunk that really quickly and say that he was never on the Texas roster because he has not arrived on campus yet. So that was whoever trying to start some mess. Nonetheless, Agiye Hall did scrub all of the Texas pictures off of his social media, leading Texas fans and people associated with the 40 acres to wonder what is going on with Agiye Hall. George Corkian, what are your thoughts on the Agiye Hall fiasco?
Oh man, I don't know. I feel like you want to come play here, man. You don't. There's somebody to back you up, somebody to take a spot if you don't come. I would love to have him. I mean, he's obviously an incredibly talented player, gonna really improve the roster. I remember talking to you about this a couple weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to have him here. And it's been 2 weeks, and we're already dealing with the deletion of social media stuff and him not wanting to come here. Maybe he does, who knows, like trying to play the recruiting game, maybe getting some money. I don't know, but like I would love to have him here. But if he doesn't want to be here, he don't want to be here, and that's totally his prerogative. I hope that whether or not he comes to Texas or not, that he makes whatever decision is best for him, his career. Want him to succeed in whatever he does, but I just feel like we're at a point right now in the program where you can't really, fault a guy for leaving or fault him for coming. It's just like, if you want to come play, you want to come succeed. I think he would an instant jolt of electricity to the program, into the offense. But if he feels his talents would be more useful elsewhere, then that's his decision, and I wish him the best of luck.
Yeah, so let me say that Chip Brown has reported that Agiye Hall still plans to enroll at the end of May before you scare the Texas fans. His 7-on-7 coach did say that the reports were total BS and that he does plan to enroll at the end of May. So Agiye Hall, it seems, after all of this, will be a Texas Longhorn. So more of the question is, what do I think about Agiye Hall scrubbing his social media? I don't think it's a question of whether or not he wants to be here or not. I mean, and granted, he hasn't signed on the dotted line, he hasn't enrolled, so anything could happen. But per his 7-on-7 coach, he will be playing for the University of Texas. I say that, I was kind of out on the Agiye Hall thing at first, and when he committed, because I am a Texas fan, I support anything and all things Texas Longhorns. I decided to get on board. And I understood that Jeff Banks and Steve Sarkisian had done their due diligence. And if they were going to bring in a player that they recruited at Alabama in Agiye Hall, they understood what type of player they were getting. And what seemed like a luxury at first kind of became a necessity when you had 3 wide receivers enter the transfer portal.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Because now it's like, okay, Agiye Hall, let's just take Troy O'Meary out of it for a second. He's never caught a pass. So now you're looking at it and you're saying Agiye Hall is your bona fide wide receiver 4, unless you want to put Casey Kane above him because he's been in the system. And so now it's like you're going to rely on Agiye Hall for production this year. I think with everything that went on with Agiye Hall at Alabama, we can't really afford him the benefit of the doubt yet. As we've mentioned, this is a player that Nick Saban and the players on the team decided that they would be better off without. We know Agiye Hall is freaky talented. We know he's 6'3" with a 6'8" wingspan, and we know he has hands like an NBA player. But he hasn't afforded that benefit of the doubt or that credibility yet to already be causing these types of waves at the University of Texas. Now, understand it's just social media, and what we're going to do is super read into it probably too much. We saw it when Kyler Murray was going through his contract stuff. He deleted all of his posts, and that was front page news. When Deebo Samuel wanted a trade, what's the word I'm looking for? Deleted everything off his Instagram, unfollowed the 49ers. And that was front page news. So, of course, Agiye Hall deleting all of his posts off of social media, Texas related, is going to cause a rift. And my only question to Agiye Hall is why? If you're leaving Alabama and trying to leave all of that negative stuff behind, why would you come to the University of Texas and within a month have people questioning whether you're committed or not? I'm not saying anything about Agiye Hall, the person. I'm not saying he's wrong for deleting the post off his social media. If Xavier Worthy were to do that, we will question it. Of course, we would panic. But he's earned the benefit of the doubt. Jordan Whittington has earned the benefit of the doubt. Agiye Hall, you haven't done anything at the University of Texas yet. And it remains to be seen what you will do, what we will get from you, what type of player you are, if you're reliable, if you'll be able to stay with the team or play on the field for all 12, hopefully more games this year. So I just don't like the fact that you come in right away before you've even arrived on campus, and you have people debating whether or not you're committed to this football team.
You know who John, honestly, man, you know, it kind of reminds me of is Brew McCoy from last year. Same vibe, or sorry, 2 years ago, year before. It really gives me the same, like Brew McCoy, like I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there. I'm going to delete and then add back on. I'm going to commit, decommit. Same type of vibe to me, man. I mean, I'd more than welcome a talent like his to the 40 acres. I think you would too, and everybody else, you know, who wears burnt orange would as well. But it's like, it's you know, it really just gives me like Brew McCoy, like he's here. Oh wait, never mind, he changed his mind. Oh wait, he's back. Oh, maybe he's gone now. I don't know. I know that he was never on the roster. Those reports were silly that he was taken off the roster. He was never on the roster. I know that the day after he committed, he took everything Texas related off of his profile. At the same time, it's like, we've never heard him verbally say, like, I'm committed to this coach. I'm committed to this program. We've never seen him tweet it, text it, nothing. It's like he was here. Maybe he's here. Maybe he's not. I would love to have him here because the dude's a beast. But at the same time, like, I mean, who's to say?
And I should have said this earlier in the segment. So he did do the story with Chip Brown. What was that? Mm-hmm. That wasn't even because I talked about that when I was in Nashville, I think. Or not even, that was after Nashville. So that wasn't even 2 weeks ago. He did the story with Chip Brown. And then like a week ago, somebody had tweeted about like the fastest players on the team. And he tweeted, I'm going to sneak up in there. I think that was like May 11th or 12th. So that wasn't even a week ago. So all signs seem to him coming to the University of Texas. And I know that he said like the Alabama fans weren't loving. And Alabama fans do talk a lot of mess. They had a field day today when they ran with that fake report about him no longer being on the roster. But also one thing that Alabama fans said was good luck dealing with his cryptic tweets and good luck trying to assess what his mood is and where he is. And yet today, the entire Longhorn Nation was wondering what's going on with Agiye Hall. I got an email from a fan today asking me what's going on with Agiye Hall. And so all I'm saying is you haven't done anything yet at the University of Texas to earn the benefit of the doubt, to earn the type of cachet. You are coming off of leaving a tumultuous tenure at the University of Alabama. And before you've even arrived on campus, you already have everybody at Texas questioning your commitment level. I just don't like that from a player that's coming over with a checkered past. I don't like that. Now, it could just be social media. We could just be overreacting to everything. He could simply be deleting the post. But if you know everything that's been said about you at Alabama, you know how people feel about you. You know that you have to come to the University of Texas and prove yourself, prove that everything everybody has said about you in the past has been wrong. Why delete your commitment post before you even arrive on campus, knowing the type of reaction that's going to cause? Why not say, I've been through a lot, I've caused a lot, I'm going to come to the University of Texas, put my head down, and get to work? And I'm not saying he's doing that, but he knew what deleting those posts would do. He knew what type of reaction deleting those posts would do. And yet here we are questioning whether Agiye Hall is committed to the University of Texas or not. because he wanted to delete some social media posts knowing the type of reaction it would cause. I'm just not a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of Agiye Hall. I'm a huge fan of this Texas football team, and I'm hoping it works out. But I'm not a huge fan of him coming in here and causing issues purposely, causing confusion purposely, because he wants to be cryptic and he wants to have fun on social media, knowing what you just came off of at Alabama. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, no, it might be a Addison thing. I mean, if
Addison has 1,600 yards last year. We know what we're getting from him. No, you have 4 catches for 72 yards in your career.
That's the Bolitnikov winner. So if there's a little more hype for him, that's to be expected because he kind of won the award, for the best player at that position. So if there's a little more hype, that's okay. And just got to kind of accept that and move on. But no, I mean, I want him here. The guy is a beast. I watched actually some highlights today of some older film. It's a pick 6 thrown in an Alabama game, and I saw him literally hit a linebacker like 7 yards out of bounds, like just on a block, like a kickback block. And I was like, yo, damn. Dude's a beast. He's a great football player. I really, really want him in the burnt orange. But I mean, the cryptic stuff, I mean, come if you want, don't if you want. I got faith in Sark. I got faith in the staff. And if you will be a part, I feel like everyone in burnt orange is gonna want you to be here.
Yeah, great player, but definitely don't like these rifts that he's causing. And hopefully he can come out this season and ball out at the 40 acres. But like I said, I want him to make headlines on the field, not off the field. And so far, we've seen more headlines off the field than on the field. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. And Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, so really quickly, there's reports that the SEC does not want to do divisions when Texas and Oklahoma arrives. Instead, they want to do pods, and the pods will have 3 teams, so 4 teams total, I should say. Each team will play the 3 teams in their pod every year without question, and then the rest of the schedule will be randomized. So, George, when Texas enters the SEC, if they are in a 4-team pod, which 3 teams should they play every year without question, and why?
Oh, man. You hit me with this question about an hour and a half ago, and I've been thinking about it a lot. This might be unpopular. I'm going to go A&M. It's Texas school, SEC. I'm going to go A&M. I'd love to play them every year again. I'm going to go LSU and Arkansas. OU, I mean, if they were to replace one of those 3 schools, I'd be cool with it. But I just feel like the point of adding OU and Texas to the SEC is to add some parity to 2 of the storied programs, in college football. So I'm going to go no OU. I'm going to go LSU, Arkansas, A&M. What about you?
All right, so I'm going to go OU. I'm going to start out. We have to continue to play OU every year. That's our biggest rival. Red River rivalry, Red River shootout, one of the highest rated games every year. Texas and OU fans, of course, Texas and Texas A&M fans, they spend all day on the internet arguing. You have to play that game every year. You have to continue to play that game every year. OU and Texas have to be in the same pod. That is non-negotiable. Texas A&M is my second team. They've been running from it for a long time. We've heard the reports about how they didn't want Texas in the SEC. They only wanted to be the only Texas team in the SEC. That's why they moved from the Big 12 to the SEC, to have their own brand. We've also heard reports that if they go to a pod system, they don't want Texas in their pod. Everybody on the Texas side is telling me that's true. Everybody on the A&M side is telling me that's not true.
Yeah, it's not shocking.
I'm going to choose to believe what I want to believe and that they're running from this smoke. But when we come to the SEC, they won't be allowed to. We need to play Texas A&M every year and let them know who the dominant school in Texas is. First of all, we need to become the dominant school in Texas again and take that from Baylor, you know. But once we do, we need to play Texas A&M every year and let them know what they've been missing since they left the Big 12. The next one is tricky for me. Oklahoma, Texas A&M were not tricky. The next one comes down to Arkansas or LSU. Now, both closer to Texas. I'm going to go LSU, though. I just know, like, the Louisiana-Texas connection, that LSU, Texas, so many people you could talk about, whether it was from the hurricane or just period. So many people from Louisiana are in Texas, way more than Arkansas in Texas. I think you can afford to play Arkansas every couple of years and still have a great rivalry. But LSU and Texas, those border states, Louisiana and Texas, that game goes crazy. I remember going to the LSU-Texas baseball game. I didn't go to the game. I remember watching it. Excuse me. That game was crazy. Imagine football every single year between LSU and Texas. We need that. So my 4-team pod would be the University of Texas, LSU, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma. And they would play each other every year. Now, I know that would look – those are Texas's dream teams, I guess, to play every year. I know those wouldn't be like LSU's dream teams and probably not, Texas A&M's. But if I had to create a pod for Texas, those are the 3 teams I would want to see them play every year. Alabama, Florida, Auburn, Arkansas, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. We'll play them when we play them. But LSU, Texas A&M, Oklahoma need that every year, every season, without question. Final words.
No, dude, this whole conversation is completely insane to even think about the fact that we're going to play, in the SEC. I don't know, man. The OU thing, like, you tell me, John. Back in the day, in Texas, like, so much more like I don't know. It's Texas. It's the heat of the rivalry, the state pride. There's a lot more that goes into it. OU Tech, it's like I could deal with that every couple years. I feel like you got to have one of the two. In my opinion, I feel like A&M and then Arkansas. You go back Southwestern Conference days. Like, I just I don't know, man. The OU thing, like, I agree. And also disagree in a way where it's like, I feel like we could make it. That game is going to be super hype. You play that in Jerry World every couple of years. A&M, Texas. I mean, you play that Texas Motor Speedway, you got 130,000 people at the stem, guaranteed, 100%. They're never. I find it hard to believe that they're going to do the, give Texas like the 2 big rivalry games and then let them pick the third. I feel like if I had to pick one of the 2, I'm going A&M, LSU, Arkansas. Like, that's you go Southwestern Conference rivalry, you go A&M, that's going to be huge every year, and then LSU, who selfishly might be my favorite SEC school outside of Texas when they join the conference. So that's going to be that would be my pick of the 3.
For sure. So we'll just have to see when they get to the SEC. But until then, me and George will disagree on that. Once again, Locked On Longhorns, the show. Jonathan Davis, your host, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Agiye Hall, please go put those Texas posts back up. You've given everyone in Austin, Texas, and everyone associated with the 40 acres a heart attack today. I am rooting so hard for you, but you are making it so hard for me. Until next time, Longhorn Nation, peace.